I am 87 years old, and I want to tell you about the 11 years I spent fighting my own bed in the dark. Somewhere between 3 and 5 in the morning, my eyes would open, and I would lie there stiff, arms at my sides, refusing to get up, because I did not want to waste the bed. That was the honest reason. I thought a man who could not hold on to his sleep had something broken in him. 11 winters I did that. Then one night I quit fighting, and those hours taught me 6 things. I am not ashamed of the 6. I am not proud of them either. I feel honest, and honest is rarer. Come closer if you can. Pull your chair in and let an old man talk slowly. I am not going to explain that hour to you. I do not know what it is. I am not going to tell you how to sleep, because that is not mine to hand out. And I am not going to tell you the hour is a gentle thing, because for 11 years it was the worst part of my day, and I will not lie to you about it. What I have is smaller and truer than any of that. I had the hour wrong, not the hour. Me. When I was a boy, I woke in the dark once and could not get back under. I came out to the front room frightened, and my grandmother was already up, sleeves pushed to her elbows, standing at the stove. I asked her what was wrong with me, that I was awake and the whole house was not. She did not turn around. She said, "Nothing is wrong with the hour. You are just the only one in it." I was 7. I did not understand a word of it, and I carried it for 80 years anyway, the way a man carries a stone in a coat pocket and forgets it is there until his hand goes looking for something else. At 87, in a cold kitchen, my hand finally went looking. Nothing is wrong with the hour. You are just the only one in it. The first thing those hours taught me is that they were the only hours in my life nobody had a claim on. It was February when I gave up. Nothing grand happened. I had been lying there an hour arguing with the ceiling, and something in me set the argument down. I got up. I put the kettle on. I sat in the chair by the window with the light off and the cup burning my hands, and I waited to feel foolish about it. The foolish feeling never came. What came instead was quiet, and not the sad kind. Nobody wanted anything from me. Not one living person needed a word out of me until the sun came up. When did you last have 2 hours nobody had a claim on? My grandfather used to say a river is most honest before the village wakes, because nothing has been drawn out of it yet. I had been throwing my one clean river away every morning for 11 years, so I could go on lying still in a bed I was not using. The little book I made out of my grandmother's sayings and my grandfather's is called The Native Way, and it is linked in the description below. No pressure at all from me. I am here either way, and these words are the same whether you ever open it or not. There are 5 things left, and I will tell you now that the 6th is the one I am least proud of. I nearly left it out of this, and then I thought, an old man who tells you 5 true things and hides the 6th is doing the same thing he did with the radio. And when I say I nearly left it out, understand I am not building anything up for you. I am putting off saying it out loud, the way a man puts off a thing he has to say to his own face in a mirror. So you will get all 6. Let me give you the second thing. The second thing those hours taught me is that my body was keeping an appointment, and there was a person attached to the appointment. My wife rose at 4:20 for 51 years. Nobody asked it of her and no work required it. She lit the stove, she filled the kettle, and she sat with both hands around the cup and did not speak to anybody until the light came. I used to lie in that bed and listen to the whole thing happen, the cupboard, the water, the chair leg dragging on the floor, and go back under before she was finished. She has been gone a long while now. The stove is cold at that hour and the cupboard door stays shut, and my eyes still come open at 4:20, or near enough that a clock would not argue with me. For 11 years I called that a malfunction. Do you know what I mean when I say a habit can outlive the person who made it? My grandfather kept a mare who stopped at a gate for 2 years after he took the gate out. He would laugh and say she was not being foolish, she was being faithful, and that a horse remembers a gate longer than a man remembers the fence he built. I am not going to dress this up for you. I do not think she is waking me. I think I lived beside somebody for 51 years, and the hour got into me the way smoke gets into a coat. 51 years is a long time to lie in the dark, listening to one person begin her day. My mornings learned her. That is all I am claiming, and I am not going to claim 1 inch past it. Now, when my eyes come open at 20 past 4, I do not call it broken. I say her name out loud in an empty room, and then I put the kettle on, and I am the one sitting with both hands around the cup. The third thing is the one I would hand to a younger man first. What frightens you at 4 in the morning is almost never what is actually wrong with your life. At 4 o'clock, I take an inventory of catastrophes. The money will not last. The roof is finished. I will go down on that kitchen floor and lie there 4 days before anybody thinks to come looking. At 4 in the morning, those are not worries. They are facts, delivered by a voice that sounds like it knows something I do not. Then the sun comes up and I look at the same things at 9, and it is a different list altogether. My grandfather took me up a canyon once when the wind was working, and I stopped dead on the trail because there was a voice in it. He let me stand there scared for a minute. Then he walked me around the bend and showed me the rock the wind was going around. The same sound, now with a rock in it. So here is what I do, and it costs nothing. I keep paper and a pencil by that chair. Whatever the 4 o'clock voice tells me, I write it down in the dark, and I do not read it until 9. At 9, the roof was 2 nails and 1 dry afternoon. The money was arithmetic I had already done twice, and the one about the kitchen floor turned into walking across the road and asking Lorna if she would look for my light in the mornings. She said she had been looking for it for 6 years. The fourth thing shamed me a little, and it took the longest to come up. In 87 years, I had never once been alone with my own thinking without a job attached to it. Understand? I have done a great deal of thinking, but it was always thinking with my hands busy. Thinking down a fence line with the wire in my teeth. Thinking under a truck. Thinking behind a mower. Thinking over a sink of dishes. 60 years of it. And a man will tell himself that is the same as sitting with his own mind. It is not. It is riding along behind your hands and letting them choose the road. The first weeks in that chair, with the kettle done and nothing in my hands, it was almost more than I could stand. One morning at 4:15, I got up and swept a clean floor. Swept it, just to have a job on me. The next morning I caught myself reaching for a screwdriver and a lamp that did not need fixing, and I made myself set both of them back down and sit in the chair with 2 empty hands. My grandmother used to send me down to the creek and tell me to walk past the fast part first. She said you cannot see your face in a running creek. The water only gives you your face back when it stops moving. When did you last give your hands nothing to do? I sat still 3 or 4 mornings, and things I had not looked at in 40 years came up off the bottom of me and stood in the room. Some of it I did not enjoy. All of it was mine. The fifth thing is that some people are owed a letter and not a telephone call. Emmett and I were friends for 50 years. Then we were not, over a fence line and where it ran, and over 3 or 4 sentences said in a hot afternoon that neither of us was big enough to take back. 11 years of it. We lived 1.5 miles apart and did not speak. I had picked up the telephone twice in those 11 years and set it down both times, because a telephone makes a man answer you before he has had time to become the man who could. At 4:10 on a Tuesday in March, I wrote him a letter instead. 4 pages. And I did not put one clever thing in it. I wrote that I had been wrong about the line and wronger about the words. I wrote down what 50 years of a friend had been worth to me. I walked it to the box before 6 with my coat pulled over my nightclothes. My grandmother used to say that a seed does its first work in the dark, where nobody is watching it and nobody can tell you yet whether it is going to come to anything. A letter lets a man read a thing 4 times in his own kitchen before he has to have a face about it. I did not know if he would answer. I put it in the box anyway, and then I went home and did the ordinary things a man does at 6 in the morning. 9 days later, there was an envelope in my box with his handwriting on it, which I had not seen since about 1974. I am not going to tell you it repaired 11 years. It did not. We are two old men who speak now. That is very far from nothing. And the sixth thing. This is the one I am least proud of, and it is the reason I fought that hour for 11 years. I had been using sleep to keep from being awake with myself, not only at night, all of it. The nap after lunch that I did not need and took anyway. The radio going in an empty kitchen from the minute my feet hit the floor. The television talking to a room where nobody was answering it, left on until I went under in the chair with the light of it moving over my face. 60 years of arranging a life so that I was never once left alone in a quiet room with my own company. My grandfather said a man who cannot sit with himself will hire anybody at all to sit with him. He said it about a fellow in town who kept bad friends, and I thought for 60 years that it was a saying about bad friends. It is not. It is a saying about the radio. I hired the radio, I hired the television, I hired the afternoon nap, and I paid all three of them in the only money I had left, which was hours. Nobody made me do it. Lorna asked me once why my kitchen was never quiet, and I told her I liked the company, and I believed that sentence when I said it. And when I finally understood that, I understood what I had really been doing between 3 and 5 in the morning for 11 years. I was not fighting the hour. I was fighting the only 2 hours left in my life, where there was nobody in the room to talk over me. Now I want to say the next part carefully, because I am old, and I have watched people take a list like this one and sharpen it into a stick to beat themselves with. Naming these 6 things was not the same as hating myself for them. A man who turns on a radio in an empty kitchen is not a broken man. He is a man whose hand went to a knob. That is the whole of it. And a hand can learn a different motion at 87. Slower, yes, but it learns. What I found in those hours was not a flaw sitting at the bottom of me. It was a set of small motions I had been making for 60 years without once looking down at my own hand while I made them. And let me be plain with you about the other thing, since you may be waiting for me to say it. I do not know why I wake between 3 and 5. I have stopped asking. I asked for 11 years, and the asking never once brought me an answer. All it did was take an ordinary hour and turn it into a courtroom where I stood trial every single night. The hour is not a courtroom now. It is a kitchen with a chair in it and a cup and an old man who has finally quit arguing with the ceiling. Let me gather this up for you now, the way my grandmother gathered the ends of her shawl. Those hours are the only ones nobody has a claim on. My waking is an appointment with somebody I loved, and not a fault in me. What frightens me at 4 is almost never what is wrong at 9. I had never sat with my own thinking without a job in my hands. Some people are owed a letter and not a telephone call, and I spent 60 years using sleep to keep away from my own company. 6 things. Now hold them up against your own life, the way you hold a plate up to the window to see whether it is cracked. Whose claim are you still carrying at 4 in the morning? Whose hour do you keep? What do you switch on the moment you walk into an empty room? And who is owed a letter from you that you keep trying to turn into a telephone call? I know what some of you are saying, because I set it into a dark ceiling for 11 years. Is it too late for me? I am 87. I will not stand here and promise you what will come of any of this. I do not know your mornings, and I will not pretend to. But this much I know, because I tested it with my own hands at my own age. However many years a man is carrying, he keeps 2 things. He can notice one thing, and he can make one ordinary choice about it. That is all I had at 4 o'clock in February. A kettle, a chair, and one choice. Now I would like to hear from you. Of the 6, tell me down in the comments which number landed closest to home. The second one, about the appointment your mornings are still keeping, or the 6th one, About the radio you switch on so the room will not be quiet. Just give me the number. I read every one of them in a chair by a window, usually a good while before most people are up. And then come back tomorrow and sit with me again. I will keep a cup out for you.